Take a stroll with me through the garden this evening and let's talk about this season's wins and losses and how things went for the garden season. And I'll also give an update on our newly planted cover crop. In my gardening experience, it definitely seems to ring true that no matter how many plans or goals or preps that you make, things are just not always going to go to plan. And that's okay. We learn from that and we make better plans for next year. October is here and that we're even talking about the progress of our cover crop, but here we are. So the garden season has definitely wound down. I do have some fall things going on that we're going to talk about and check on for how the garden is doing, but first I wanted to show you a follow-up on the cover crop. So the crimson clover has come up pretty well. There are patches of other things coming up. I do see we have like a little grassy area here, and I see some morning glories. But of course, once the frost comes, a lot of these things will die back. I even see some zinnias coming up. But we're excited that this is coming. So this area behind me was able to be tilled this week. So what's next up is for me to sow that in the cover crop before the next upcoming rain. It's been on and off on whether we're gonna have rain this week, a little wishy-washy, so I'm not sure when I'm going to choose to do that, but in upcoming videos we'll follow along with the progress of that cover crop as well. And this plot will also be crimson clover. This past weekend we were able to have a bonfire here at the house. This pile back here had been accumulating for 2 years. I didn't realize that it had been that long until my husband brought it to my attention, because we usually burn it every September-ish, and we hadn't done it in a while, and I guess maybe last year just wasn't big. I don't know. So this weekend we set that on fire. With having, coming off of the tail end of a decent amount of rain, we thought the conditions were suitable to be able to get rid of that. So that was an occasion. We had some friends over and enjoyed a Friday night bonfire. So one of the things I've been trying to do is analyze the way things went for this garden season, kind of like a year-end review type of thing. Look at the way things went, what went well, what would we like to improve on next year, what do we want to do differently, that type of thing. And so I've had some various thoughts. I would love to know if you guys do a year in review after your garden season. What have been your thoughts for the way things went for you this year, and what do you want to change and update for next season? One of the things that went really well for me that I was really excited about was the dahlias. Dahlias, how do you say it? I always said dahlias, and then I started hearing flower farmers say dahlias, and then I picked up on it, and that's the way I've been saying it. But anyway, so this was new for me this year. I had not previously done much with them. I had had dahlias in pots by the porch. One year it did good, and the last year they did not. So we didn't really have any last year. But they have been such a fun addition and have brought me so much joy. And that's one of the things with gardening I feel like is necessary when you're trying to grow food for your family. There can be a level of stress and pressure that can be added to it, but when you can add in things that you're growing and learning about that bring you joy, I feel like it adds a sense of wonder and a sense of excitement to the gardening. And for me this year, that was the dahlias. One of the things that I have decided we definitely have to do differently next year is the raspberries. So the raspberries were new last year, and they were transplants that we got pieced off from a friend. And this year, you know, they come back and you have your new shoots. And I decided I would extend the length of the rows. What I did not think through was the trellising situation in years moving forward, because as your raspberries come to fruit, they get heavy and the plant wants to lean over. And while it may not have seemed like much of an issue initially this year, it turned into an issue later in the season. And I'm like, okay, what I had originally thought I was going to do for the trellising is not as ideal. So now I am trying to decide, do I want to change my method? And it's going to feel like stepping backwards, which is why I'm making that face. Do I want to change my method and let the raspberries be in a section, so like let them be a little bit wider, and do my trellis like that, and get rid of the second row? It was 2 rows, because I think they will be allowed to get thicker if I do it that way, and then use a double-sided trellis system with wire like this coming off of ends with some support posts along the way. I feel like that's probably going to be what I need to do. I just wish that I would have realized that before I did the 2 rows. I don't know. I just had it in my head that maybe they weren't going to be as tall and they weren't going to lean as much. I don't know what I thought. But having the experience under my belt now, I am not thrilled with the way things went this year in regards to during the fruiting season. And next year we're going to do something different. And I'm going to have to really make sure to get a jump on that trellising. If you are growing raspberries, I would love to hear from you how you do yours. I would love to hear it, because I'm thinking I just need to go down to like 1 section and let them get a good width and thickness, as opposed to doing 2 rows. Also, if I did 2 rows and let them get thicker, I don't think there will be much space to walk between them with the way that I've got them set up. And if I did leave space to walk between and let it kind of come on the other side for the second row, then it's going to be tight with the black raspberries. And so that's why I'm leaning towards, I think I may have to go down to 1 section. And then that means almost like sacrificing a year, because all of the new growth that I would have on that second row, I'm not going to be able to allow it to come to fruition. So that's kind of a downer for me for this year, that the raspberries didn't go to plan. Come on, y'all. So pretty. Love it. I have absolutely loved cutting the flowers and making bouquets. So fun. And when the girls had their dance recital, I made bouquets for them, and everybody raved about them. They were so beautiful. They really were. All right, now we're going to take a look at this garden section. So most everything over here has definitely wound down. We're still getting some peppers and some herbs, and then we have the fall garden planted in between. So let's talk about what went really well this year. So peppers have done great. Herbs have done great. One of my main goals was the basil, and to also just expand our herbal arsenal, and we've definitely achieved that. The loofahs have done amazing. I feel like there's so many on this trellis, so many, and they have started to dry on the vine, which is what I was shooting for. Last year we missed that goal. They got a late start, and it's one of those things that they have to be on there for a long time to dry out on the vine. So that was a goal that looks like we're gonna hit. The flowers were amazing. A lot of them self-seeded, and so we had way more than I expected we were gonna have. or intended anyway. But it was a beautiful wild thing. So we let the garden go a little wild and I loved it. The recent rain and like the temperature cooled down and the recent rain sprouted so many seeds over in here. I'm not really worried about keeping up with it because the frost is going to take most of it out. But it is going to be interesting to see how wild it is next year. I am going to have to be intentional with taming that because there's no way I'm going to be able to let everything just go crazy. Another thing that did really well for me this year were the cucumbers. They were very prolific. What I didn't do well in regard to the cucumbers was succession planting. So I had succession planted some that the seed didn't come up, and then I succession planted again, and this is not in the greenhouse, I'm talking about direct sowing, and then the dog dug them up. And then I succession planted again, and they are coming up, but I don't know that we'll get anything off of them before frost hits. So I needed to have been a little more on top of that for next year. So we live and we learn. We'll make sure to do better with that next year. Another thing that I noticed that was like really awesome for this year was the number of bees and butterflies that we had. And I totally contribute that to all of the extra flowers that came up. I usually don't see that many honeybees around here, and we had oodles of honeybees this year. Specific things that I noticed that the bees really liked were the bee balm, of course. And that's somewhat seasonal because like it's totally black right now. But it's like loaded with blooms. They love herbal blooms. So like basil blooms, lavender, catnip. They are always all over the catnip. I had that in a pot last year and it came back, and it also had seeded outside of the pot and came up, and I just let it do its thing because I saw how many bees were loving the blooms on it. They're so tiny, like the blooms are so tiny, but the bees were loving it so much, so I just let it go. So this is the pot that it's in, and it like spilled over and was like growing out here and all the way over, and the bees have absolutely loved the blooms. I really don't want to be like a negative Nancy, so I'm not going to drag out this part of the video that long, but there were a lot of things that didn't go to plan, and I feel like that happens a lot when you are trying to expand or trying something new. So if you gardened this year and things didn't go the way that you really wanted them to go, I encourage you to take notes, learn from your mistakes, learn from others' mistakes, and make a plan for the garden next year. There's so much growth, pun intended, that happens during the gardening process. We have been doing this for years. This will be our 15th year of marriage, and holy crap, my anniversary's this week. Our anniversary is this week, you guys. I probably should really be on top of that. But anyway, there's so many things that you are going to mess up, so many things that you're going to learn through it, and I am stoked for what can happen for next garden season. Okay, so things that didn't necessarily go to plan for us were the corn. I didn't like the variety, so we're not doing that kind next year. 2, I planted the potatoes in the wrong spot. If I had had the other plot prepared, that wouldn't have been an issue. But that plot didn't get prepared, so it was like a series of unfortunate events. So the potatoes didn't do well. I tried on the carrots again, didn't go well. What else? The tomatoes we tried out in the lower plot in the back. Again, I haven't liked doing them there in the past. They did do better this year than they had before down there, but I still wasn't fully pleased, and I think that honestly comes down to weeds and just like, yeah, I really think it's coming down to that. So we're going to try and do better with weeds next year. We did start off with doing leaf mulching, and after that was gone, we used grass clippings, and I definitely saw the difference that it can make, but we didn't stay on top of it like I would have liked to, and it's just one of them things. I can live with it, we can live with it, but I would like it to be better managed. So like better garden management for next year. We planted right many paste tomatoes to the point of where that shouldn't have been like a crop that I didn't harvest enough of. But last year was like way more of a bumper crop for tomatoes. And apparently I'm not the only one. I know that other homesteaders have mentioned it. Ruth Ann Zimmerman mentioned that it was not a bumper year for tomatoes, and that when you do have a bumper year for tomatoes, that is why you are to preserve all of them that you can, so that when times like this hit, you have a reserve in the pantry. And then finally, a win that I feel like we can talk about is that I was brave enough to try fall gardening. So we're in the thick of that, kinda. That is to come in a future video, an update on the fall gardening and how the plants are doing. And just the fact that I am still feeling so excited about the garden process instead of massively burned out at this point is definitely a win. Like, it's a major win, because normally there's massive burnout. Another maintenance thing that I want to get done here before next garden season is to remulch in between all of the raised beds, and I'm hoping to have access to that mulch and get that done this fall instead of next spring. Pretty sure that's going to happen. I just got to get it all lined up, but that's a maintenance thing that we want to get taken care of. It's not often that I get to shoot videos this time of the evening, just because I like to let the family be able to run around outside and not have to worry about my videoing. But isn't it a lovely evening? That sun is going down and it's so pretty. I thank you so much for joining me on a walk in the garden. I hope that your garden season has been a learning experience for you, and that you feel encouraged to tackle it again next year and try new things. I hope that you remember that God has given us everything we need to nourish our bodies in the best way, and I hope that we can be good stewards together and learn as we go along. And I hope that you can be encouraged that God is good all the time, and we'll catch you on the next video. That moon is huge, y'all. And if you haven't already, we would love it if you would subscribe to our channel. Our family appreciates you being here.